So I recently got made a useful idiot in no good ways. So, um, for 12 of these 15 years as a TI, I thought it was only mental illness. Somebody at Central Command under the Bush administration um, made this happen. Something I read recently is that like electric core and community-based agents are um, strictly prohibited from selecting more for the targeted individual list. Um, of 15 years of torture, uh, attacks on my entire house, like my genome, the kind of stuff that would, even talking about it, would peel the paint off your mom's basement walls, like at least figuratively. A lot of POW, TI torture. Out of 15 years of it, this is how easily misled we are by this technology. The people perpetrating me in a problem reaction solution of a blue state wonky Democrat political dissident wanted to throw the blowback or responsibility for crimes that EMF perpetrators commit themselves onto a single ethnic group that I live in the neighborhood with and is members of the state of Oregon in our community, Hispanic Americans. Out of like 5,000, there's been so many white devils, man. Most of my fucking attackers have been white devils. And I get spun around in an instant and like false flaggy Central Command had already done it, trying to set me up for a neurocrime that didn't happen. After fucking skipping to my loo down the road, talking about getting a B or an A in propaganda in college. So I don't really ever want to tempt a A+ at speed of thought, Central Command, military professional who understands BCI and how to trigger a MK Ultra super soldier and whatnot. Again, but that's been some of the not humbling, humiliating experience for me as a TI. Even with the wonderful lock of hair as I try to Hercules my way through the next 20 or 30 years. A hit was called out on myself and my family. As it's been termed, gummed up fusion center files where people submit false crime accusations against people to justify the extrajudicial paramilitary secret surveillance and torture. It's a repeating pattern in history. It happened in Germany and Russia. Myself and my family are a member of some of those groups. So I get tortured into saying and feeling things through not having any control of my mind or body like normal people do to make me look, to attack me. So the problem reacts to the solution is to attack me more. So yeah, I feel like an idiot, like now at the end of the month of, or not an idiot, but made a fool. They may be non-bodied monitored consciousnesses, but they can make a fool out of anybody. And I just got made more vulnerable and will be moving out of Hillsborough, actually a small Hispanic community in a large state of white people. We have gray skies at the end of August to go with my skin. I'm made for it. So there's some talk about the left droopy eye and then the abuse that our brains go through as targeted individuals. Anyways, I'm sorry, Hispanic Americans. You're not the reason why I'm targeted, and even so, it's irrelevant for who put me on the list 15 years ago. What's important is that I'm able to protect my mind and body, and it was unfair, tactically, obsessively, unfortunately brilliant against me to call a hit out on Hispanic Americans of all the nameless, faceless devils on those EMF machines impersonating anybody they want. It's Nazi um, fascism. I'm the one getting exterminated. Um, yeah, I do have a droopy eye. I was just maybe some of the abuse that is a mind control slave. Anyways, so many white devils. Whoa. I've been provoked by voices from the South. They're hanging out with a black dude now. They've been using kids, women's voices. But of the sender release receiver relationships between brains, those using NLP, they could be anybody. It could be Chatterbot from the CIA part of the time, like really trained AI. They tried to trick me successfully into getting angry and yelling about a satanic misdirect is what that amounted to. Shifting blame for the behavior of my perps and the others. And here's where I need to sort of be a little more professional or wise as an aware TI. There may be people that really should have been made targeted individuals, and I want to end being too critical in areas that I have no expertise. And, you know, even though I got made a TI 15 years ago, particularly for in an international context where I don't even know if these guys are from Putin's Russia. But yeah, they tried to blame the Central Command hit from 15 years ago on Mexicans, as I'm in a Mexican neighborhood, and I believed it and got spun around like a top, played for a fool. They may be non-body monitor consciousness, but they can make a fool out of anybody. Anyways, I'm sorry for I shouldn't have to apologize for this, and it kind of shows weakness. That was NLP, trauma-based mind control behavior, that forced me into those behavior modification instances recently, trying to blame a perp on my family and I, and remote torture from satellites and Nazi fascist Satanism on Hispanics. And I examined some of the repeated street theater from EMF for a while, and I'm just not willing to accept the frame. I'm worried about where I'm gonna live next and getting phone calls that get through my family, stuff like that. I don't want to be made more of a useful idiot that I already am at speed of thought, in the words of James Lyko. So yeah, the droopy eye may be a sign of the brain abuse that I and other people that are handled that get NLP from synthetic telepathy. Yeah, so I'm gonna try and stop being made so much a fool or more vulnerable. I don't want to aim to humiliate. I don't want to get triggered into anger. I don't want to be set up for frames, and I want to work with the existing structures. I think I have been of the U.S. first, because I'm an American, even though I'm a TI, and go from there, because it does have a sinister, subtle, unspoken international context for any of the stuff. The World Wide Web is 30 this year. It's 2019. I'm 40 years old. I am older than the internet. Electromagnetic frequency terrorism and torture is an international concern understatement. People's public health issues are in play. I don't know when I'm getting fake news or not. We may have had a huge, in the last week, in and out of national political demonstrating with some real professional provocateurs in there that cost our city money and finances. We have a homeless crisis in Oregon, the synthetic telepathy broadcast crisis, which is contributing to that homelessness, and that's really what the issue is. And it's very difficult being a TI. We had a rally in Portland recently. I saw some of the photos, I think, from a suspected perp who's on my Facebook list, who can appear as anybody. And in spirit of those folks that showed up to our living room, it's been called Pioneer Courthouse Square in Portland, and the targeted individual community. Hi, I got made a TI for being a political dissident 15 years ago. I thought it was only mental illness most of my life. I've been so tortured and misled. I really spent a lot of time on something that I hope, even though it's so censored and obscure, putting together a pictorial, easily understandable collection of additional photos about my plight and then the plight of TI on my Instagram account yesterday during the rally. And then the 29th, is that today? Geez, I think that, it's like International Targeted Individual Awareness Action Days around the world. So those are my people too, most specifically the TI community. But like, and I studied enough of politics and policy, even though I don't have time to really think because I'm getting hit with NLP every 15 to 20 seconds, to know that, like, and all the problem, reaction, solution triggering things and whatnot. I'm an American TI first. I'm not going to go try and solve all of the intel problems of the Philippines. They actually have professionals that do that. I'm not a CIA agent. I'm not on perp side. I'm not really paramilitary at all. I'm more of a POW, but people are getting abused by intel outfits in this technology in other countries too. It's a worldwide phenomena, and I digitally, even though I'm restricted from some means of communication in my outpatient facility in Hillsborough, want to offer my solidarity and support and care and concern for all my fellow TIs at this end of August, not only in America but also the world too. But that's where, I don't know, I guess with the internet it's kind of more complicated too. Maybe I shouldn't be so absolutist. I really am concerned about all the other TI in other parts of the world, and have been fortunate to get in a few groups to be able to contact them before, like, perps break up our chat group or whatnot, and that keeps happening. So 40 years old, 15 years at TI. It'd be nice to get a reprieve, some cessation of combat. And the last 48 hours, the NLP content hasn't been as torturous. And it's weird being me and a mind control slave and being so productive with mind and thought, and then not having the ability to take normal attributable, he made that recognition for intellectual property right stuff, creative content. I'm really very much a slave. And there's a Sir Tim in the Queen's Court in England whose invention is 30 years old. Oh, geez, that may have been a slip in there for trying to... What's that club that does that? Anyways, the World Wide Web is 30. Electromagnetic terrorism from satellites into people's homes is so much of a public health concern, it's hard to even categorize it in those few words, even in public policy silos of information. I love you, T. I'm an American one, and I really do care about you overseas, but all that the world's really complicated, and I'm trying to maybe, at least across normal, like I'm zero partisan about any of this stuff. Like so many good Republican folks get targeted individual. I'm a Democratic folk who got targeted individual. Like the normal divisions, partisanship or whatnot, I would hope would be more or less dissolved or instantly set aside when talking about things like torture or remote torture. That we could be more civil as a polis and say, I don't care who he votes for. That guy shouldn't be being tortured by somebody else who's in the comfort of their own home for things they said on the internet. I mean, free speech is not free, but this is adding meaning to the suffering in a lot of ways, the plight of TI. And I'm happy for individual reprieves and, hey, we were all getting lied about, and I was one of those guys that shouldn't have been made a TI. Political dissident type, not like a career criminal. Anyways, end of August, and I'm an American TI. And I'm up against unlimited resources, the full force of the federal government and worse. And it'll pretend like it's really weak or stupid in NLP in my head, and is none of those things. It's art of war. So I'm weak and stupid compared to 5 million EMF beings and perps. And that's my estimates for the US alone. The worldwide estimates, I have no idea.